Welcome back to another episode of Under the Sun Sports. I am joined always by my friends Chris Valenti and Mr. Pat Resnick. How are you guys doing?
Not too
Doing
bad.
great. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I am Mike Chiacheri. I will be your host today. For this segment, we're going to jump into a little bit of football. So we're going to look at the NFL and kind of how obviously COVID has affected sports drastically in the NFL. I mean, everything between offseason routines and players opting out of the season who don't even want to take part in it have disrupted a lot of the plans for this upcoming football season, if we're even going to get there. But I guess you kind of look at it in two ways. I think some teams are going to hurt from it, and I think some of those things that are hurting some teams could benefit some. And in this segment, we are going to each pick a few teams that we feel, or players that we feel will benefit from the COVID situation, whether it's players holding out or not being able to be with your team, or whether you get a new chance in the team by someone stepping down. And some players or teams we feel might be a bit hurt by that. So I think we'll go around. I think we'll start with our winners, if that's all right with you guys. We'll go around and each say one and talk about why we feel that they are going to benefit from this situation. Obviously not COVID, but the situation they've been placed in because of what's happening around us. So, Pat, why don't you start? Give us one of your winners.
All right, my first one, I'm going to cheat a little bit and get a dual one in. It's going to be the Brady-Belichick combo. And it's a little strange, right? So bear with me here. How do they benefit from this? I don't know about you guys, but I was already sick of hearing is Brady good because of Belichick, or is Belichick good because of Brady? And that whole debate, I can't stand it. I think it's so annoying. I think you can make that argument for any coach, any receiver with a quarterback. It's so frustrating. So really, I think we're the real winners because we're not going to have to hear that conversation as much for a couple reasons. The main one being a lot of the Patriots opted out, right? So Belichick's kind of off the hook a little bit this year. I don't think anyone's really expecting the Patriots to do big things. It's like if Cam comes in and he's great, Belichick's a genius. If he's a bust, it's like, oh, well, he wasn't good. He had a bad year the year before, and they lost all these players, Dante Hightower, and all these, really big staples of their team. So I think it takes that conversation off of both of them, and it takes the pressure off of both of them. I think Brady is obviously a winner because he gets to play with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, aside from all the COVID stuff, but he also isn't going to have to hear this Brady, Belichick, GOAT debate as much. People are still going to bring it up, but it's not going to be this hot topic that ESPN hones on every week after a win or loss. I think it would have been if it was full teams and regular season.
Sure. If I can, Chris, do you mind if I jump in? Because mine kind of relates a little bit to that, if that's all right.
Yeah, mine kind of relates too, so we might have the same one.
All right, yeah, we'll see. So you can go first. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
All right. So just in terms of the Patriots, one of my winners I have is the Buffalo Bills. I think that was that what you were going to have?
Yeah.
I'll give mine real quick, and then you can go again. I think that the Patriots losing, arguably the greatest quarterback in history, even though he's old, still is going to hurt that franchise. They don't know what it's like without him. We don't really know what Cam's going to be like. I mean, I think he's a former MVP, obviously, but he hasn't played in a little while, and no one knows how he's going to adapt to that system or what he's even going to be like. Could he be great? Absolutely. But this isn't the same Patriots team. Like you said, a lot of players have opted out. Other than that, you have the Jets, who are a wreck, and the Dolphins, who are the Dolphins. I think this is the Bills' division. I think it's theirs to win. If not, at least make the playoffs. They've added Cole Beasley and John Brown and Stephon Diggs, and going along with Josh Allen and his cannon of an arm. I think that just makes so much sense. They have a nice defense. I just think a winner is the Bills. It is their time to take this division back.
Question for you: Are the Bills Mafia going to be jumping through tables via Zoom? Because there's no way they stop that, right? COVID's not getting in the way of.
They'll jump through the tables 6 feet apart.
Yeah, right.
Well, the parking lot will just be a row, 6 feet apart tables all the way down. They'll just jump up,
And you have to reserve a time, and you show up, and you have 30 minutes to jump through.
That's dude.
Yeah. Be like, honey, when's our table time? Oh, it's 12:30. All right.
Yeah.
Right before kickoff.
That's a challenge to Bills Mafia. We want to see you guys get creative with your table breakings during this.
I love it. But yeah, I had the Bills also. All the reasons you said. Patriots losing all those players because of the COVID opt-outs, plus Brady, Gronk. This is their division to win or lose. They have a young team, and to really show if last year was a fluke or not.
Perfect. All right, Pat, back to you. Another winner.
All right, second winner, I got Clyde Edwards-Helaire's fantasy stock. We know Damian Williams opted out, and I think that was the only question mark with him, right? He was, their first pick. They invested heavily with him. We know that the Chiefs running backs always produce in fantasy, probably this year more than they ever will, except for that crazy Priest Holmes year. But, with Patrick Mahomes coming into his third year and really having a hold on that offense, I mean, their running back's going to dominate. It happens to be him. He happens to be super talented. The only question mark was competition, and that is pretty much gone. So his stock is way up.
Yeah, I had him as well. He was one of my winners.
I had him also.
It's funny. It's like he was going into the season. I mean, obviously Andy Reid running backs, like you were saying, they just thrive. Westbrook, McCoy, anybody under Andy Reid has done so well. And people were coming into the season even thinking that Damian Williams was going to play, and then that Edwards-Helaire was going to do something. So like now that Williams is gone, like I just think sky's the limit for this kid, so I think he's a total winner.
Yep. Once again, all the same.
All right, perfect. Pat, your third winner.
All right.
Let's see if we can go.
I was going to say, should we have talked about this?
I don't think you guys are going to have this one. It's a blanket statement. It's just offensive linemen. All offensive linemen.
Okay.
Offensive linemen hate exercise for the most part. They hate the heat. They pretty much hate training camp, and they get an abbreviated training camp. Some of them aren't really going to have to do anything for the offseason except just be fat.
You hate offensive linemen.
I feel like
you hate offensive. Why do you hate offensive linemen?
So there's very few that are actually athletic. I mean, we happen to have some in Lane Johnson. Some
and some of them Kelsey.
Yeah, he's tiny though. Well, relatively tiny.
You said athletic. Yeah. He's athletic.
Yeah, no, he's definitely athletic, and he hangs out at the OD a lot down in Seattle. So plus one. But no, I think it's one of those things. It's kind of like cornerbacks, right? If cornerbacks could catch, they play wide receivers. If offensive linemen were true athletes, they'd probably play defensive end. That's or defense, on somewhere on the defensive line, rushing the passer. I just think the defensive front is superior athletically than the offensive front.
Well, then why aren't more plays sacks than not?
Because 5 on 3 a lot of the time.
It has to do more with the quarterback getting the ball out of their hand. I mean, there is a finite amount of time that a lineman can hold a defensive end off.
I think there's probably some give and take both here. I think you're undermining the fact that there's a lot of technique that also goes into being an offensive lineman. It's not just fat guys. You actually have to learn how to plan position and,
But you just said it. It's technique.
Yeah, technique is a skill. I mean, you have to learn it. You can't
Yeah, but it's not athleticism.
But you can be athletic. They're not – obviously they're the least athletic people on the field, but it's not to say that there's not a skill to learn that position.
100%. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think that they're probably the happiest position group out of any of the positions that there's an abbreviated camp.
Yeah. This made me think of this. In general, do you think kickers are happy?
I don't think kickers care because they don't really
care.
They kick 5 balls and then I don't think it makes a difference for them. But quarterbacks, they're probably so frustrated. I think a lot of wide receivers, they love practicing. That's it's fun for them.
Especially all these guys, especially the quarterbacks that are coming to new teams, and can't, there's so much that comes down to timing. And a lot of guys moved this offseason. It was huge. Mm-hmm. You think about all the quarterbacks that moved. You got Brady and Rivers and all these dudes that move teams. You have a bunch of receivers. Nobody's going to have any chemistry. So I totally agree there that those guys are the ones missing out.
All right. Anyone got a different pick this time around?
I do. I have the Los Angeles Chargers and the Los Angeles Rams because they no longer have to deal with playing 16 away games.
I think it's so funny. Right? How they just get taken over like that. It's
yeah. What was that?
They are doing Hard Knocks, right? Because they were doing the joint. They were doing both LA teams.
I think so. I don't know what's going on with that.
I think I heard that they were still doing it,
Oh,
which
Um,
I don't know how that works. But
Pat, do you feel like San Diego, as someone who lives there, do you feel like they would be able to support the Chargers better than what LA has done so far?
yeah, 100%. I mean, they didn't. I mean, they weren't the strongest fan base here, but they're the only team here. They're San Diego State for college, and like most people, that is like this. You know how we walk around Philly and we see Eagles and Philly shirts and Sixers jerseys and all that. Some Temple and Villanova. There's so many schools, you know, around you guys now, but here it's literally just like San Diego State. Like, I mean, there's UCSD, but they're not good at any sport. So um, if any professional team came here, they get 100% of the market share. It's like a fantasy football argument, right? Do you take the more talented player or the player with the more like share of the workload? And like that's what the San Diego market is. There's just no competition.
Sure.
So and they don't have. I mean, LA doesn't even want them. They have the Rams. That's what LA wants, you know.
I don't know why they did that. It still bothers me. I think they should go back to San Diego, but
It is
Yeah.
it is the politics of it here. I won't get into all of it, but like people love talking about the politics of Qualcomm Stadium and how you know the investment that the city made in it and the arguments and who was at fault. It's like a hot topic around here.
interesting.
Hmm.
All right. I have one more. Is that correct? Anybody have any more? Are we out, right? Winners?
Yep.
I'm out.
All right, I have one more. I don't know why I picked this. It's all right, but I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna go with Jadeveon Clowney, and I don't even like him, but I'm gonna say just for him finally getting a deal. I think that players are gonna go down, team's gonna get desperate, and he's gonna end up getting the deal. I don't know if it's gonna be what he originally wanted, and I don't really even know why my mind went to him, but I kind of was thinking like, who's still out there, who's looking for a job, and someone's going to pick him up. Someone's going to lose a player, or someone's going to opt out, and he's going to get paid. I don't know if he's going to get what he wanted, but I think that in the end, he's probably going to benefit from all these opt-outs. So that was one. All right, let's move on to losers. Pat, give us one of your losers.
All right. One of my first loser is actually Wentz, Carson Wentz. Some reasons COVID related and some just the way that the offseason unfolded with the draft and everything else. Obviously, he was left off of the NFL top 100 list, which I think we all agree is a disservice to him. Especially, I think there was 12 quarterbacks on there, so he's getting shade thrown at him already. He had a pretty good year last year, both on the field and in the book statistically, over 4,000 yards. I think he had like 27 touchdowns with Greg Ward and Perkins as his receivers. And I call him the loser because of the disrespect he's gotten. Also, I mean, I think a lot of people are taking the Jalen Hurts pick as disrespectful to Carson Wentz. I think a lot of the other quarterbacks around the league that the organizations seem to want to succeed are surrounding them with talent. You look at what the Raiders are doing, getting Henry Ruggs and trying to surround him with talent. You look at what they did in Denver with Drew Lock, bringing in Melvin Gordon and getting Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, obviously 2 years ago. But it seems like a lot of the organizations are trying to surround their quarterbacks, even Dak getting CeeDee Lamb. Like, it just all the quarterbacks that are kind of in that situation where it's like this could be a make or break year for them, which is kind of weird for Carson Wentz to think about that this could be a make or break year, because I think a lot of people are really, I'm not one of them. He's got the job for me, but I know Philadelphia after the Foles thing and have him coming in and win the Super Bowl, and then you can see Brandon Brooks going down with the injury. I know we got Peters to fill in, and that's great, but Brooks was arguably the best guard. And then say what you want about Rager, but there were some people who had different opinions on who we should pick there, whether it was Justin Jefferson or different players. And then you see Goodwin opting out, and you see Alshon coming up on the pup, and you see Deshaun in the tabloids and his statements. And it's like, it just seems like everything's going wrong for Wentz. And I still think he's talented enough to turn it around. It's just as far as the offseason go, if you can lose an offseason, I feel like he's done it.
Yeah. And the whole time, I mean, you have me thinking about the disrespect that he gets. And here's a thought. Let's see if you guys agree with me on this. And the Super Bowl year. Obviously, he goes down against the Rams, gets hurt, Foles comes in. History's history, right? I wouldn't change it for a thing. However, if he finishes that year and he wins the MVP, I don't think he ever gets overlooked again. I think he's viewed as one of the top 5 quarterbacks consistently. No analyst ever sleeps on him. It's not like a trendy pick to say, like I've seen some guys, I think Louis Riddick's a big Carson Wentz backer on ESPN, some guys. I don't think that's a thing anymore. I don't think you need like secret backers. I think if he wins that MVP, he's just cemented top 5. No one even thinks a thing. And he was close, and he was probably going to do it. But some people still think, like, they act like it never happened. And they act like, So I think that really changed the perspective. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. I'd agree with I'd even say the same thing with if he didn't get the concussion, like, that Jadeveon Clowney hit. Even if he just finished that game and he won that one game, I think that conversation also goes out the window. So I just think he's been on the end of some bad luck and I don't know, some harsh, undeservingly harsh judgment in some areas.
Sure.
Yeah, that's why I, of course, also had him on my list for all the reasons you said. Literally have them: Goodwin opt-out, Jalen Hurts, Jackson drama, Alshon Jeffrey, pup list. Just to go off what you said, though, another thing I had, I know you said you touched on it a little bit, but all these other teams surrounding them with talent. The other thing I had here is that them not trading up in the draft. I know we kind of talked about this, but I mean off camera, like when the draft was actually happening, and I was kind of happy they stayed put. But as I thought about it more, I mean, if there's a player you think he can help your quarterback, you have to move up. You have to make a move. So they just don't seem to have a willingness to go the extra mile, and I don't know why. I don't know if maybe Foles winning is part of the reason why, because they're like, he won with this. Why can't this quarterback win with what we have? I really don't know what it is.
I'm so eager. I think if there's one player I'm eager to see, not even just next year, but his career, it's Jalen Reagor. I think, like, it's such a big pick, like it comes down to, like, obviously, look, if the Falcons don't want to deal with you and you can't jump him to get CeeDee Lamb, and he's another guy, we're always going to compare these receivers, then there's nothing you can do. But if that was your guy, I mean, he's got to be a standout, like, because this could all come down to just another J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. This could come down to the fact that the Eagles don't particularly draft fantastic, especially the receiver position. And if it does, it just goes back to talk about everything we've been saying, that other teams are doing a successful job in surrounding their quarterbacks, and we have not.
Yeah, that's why, even though I mentioned I kind of liked the Reagor pick and didn't initially want them to trade up, as I thought about it more.
Yeah, and it felt like every pick of that draft, and I know that there's the common theme. They probably see something with their scheme that we don't see, but I think that's often a cop out because they miss a lot. Like it's not like we can give them the benefit of the doubt that they know something that we don't know, because it seemed like every round they just didn't pick the guy who anyone thought they would pick. And, when was their next receiver they picked in the draft? Because they didn't pick a receiver in rounds 3, 4, or 5, I think, right? They went offensive lineman, they went the linebacker, and then they went the safety, right?
They took a couple. I know they took one dude who was like had one of the fastest, like 40 times. And
they took Hightower and Quez Watkins. Is that the guy's name? Yeah, they're 2 speedsters, but they took him in, I think, like the 6th and 7th round, if I remember right. It was the end.
Chris, sorry, you actually froze out your last thought. Do you want to give that back? I'm sorry, the last thing you said before.
Yeah, just like while I liked the Reagor pick, it would have been nice for them to move up and get Lamb, because they seem to have this mindset, even going back to McNabb, even though it was different management in the front office, where they're like, we'll just wait for the guy that's there. And if he's not there, we'll take someone who has high upside, but it hasn't worked. Right. Freddie Mitchell didn't work. Macklin kind of worked. Arcega-Whiteside didn't work. Aguilar didn't work.
No.
They have a trend where they're taking these guys around the same spot for the most part, rather than moving up to get someone, and it's not working.
And to your point there, it seems like they're now like they were talking about Rager like being Deshaun Jackson's like backup until he like learned that position and that role, and then implementing him more. And I think that's obviously going to have to change with Alshon. But that just shows you like they said they're doing that because they feel like they rushed JJ Arcega-Whiteside into the starting lineup too early and put too much pressure on him, and he was like worried about where he was supposed to be and not, making plays and trusting his ability, and they don't want to do that to Jalen Rager. But it just goes to show you, like, they don't really even trust their picks. Like they're trying to set. It's good that they're trying to set them up for success now, but they're babying them now. It seems like versus putting a guy in who can help your team right now.
And it's funny. It's like you look at that draft class of receivers last year, and like there's like literally like 10 guys that like were outstanding last year, and it's like one who was Arcega-Whiteside who's just gonna be a bust. And it's like you reach your hand in a bag and you hope you have a 9 out of 10 chance to get someone, and we got the the crap end of the stick. And it's like even the first game, Terry McLaurin, I think he was taken after Arcega-Whiteside if I'm not mistaken.
He was, I'm pretty sure.
He lit the Eagles up in week 1. And it's like it's embarrassing when, the guy you take is just non-existent and guys being taken after him are studs. He's a stud now. He's the number 1 for the Washington football team, and he's going to continue to be that way.
Yeah, it's depressing when you go back and you look at drafts on paper and you're like, oh, wow, those 3 guys were taken after the guy we took at the same position. Yeah, it's scary.
Hindsight's 20/20, but that was a bad pick. All right.
That reminds me real quick. All of a sudden, I just remembered the guy from Louisville, Marcus Smith.
Yes, I was going to text that the other day. Marcus Smith. It's funny. The whole show, I couldn't think of it. It was like in the back of my mind.
I don't know why I just popped in my head.
I forgot to text it, but yes, Marcus Smith. Great job. All right, let me do one of my losers. It just goes into everything we've talked about already. I'll go real quick. It's the Patriots. The losses, they're not just – what? You have that?
Yeah.
They're not just losses. They're huge losses. Brandon Bolden.
Can I do my loser next? All right.
Yeah, sure. Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower, Marquise. It's huge losses, and they've lost like 9 guys. So like, not even including the fact that they won't have Brady and Gronk anymore, which they didn't.
Wait, can I challenge that a little bit because there is some thought and there's some rumors out there that like Belichick, he obviously wants his next quarterback. Like, could this be a season where if Cam Newton comes in and he plays terrible, which could happen, he could play great, he could play terrible, who knows, that they end up having like a horrific season and actually get a top pick?
Justin Lawrence?
Yeah, they go get Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, sorry, Trevor Lawrence. What am I thinking? Yeah.
And could they end up being the winners? Because who wants to go like 7-9 or 8-8 if you don't have a quarterback? Like, I don't want my team going like 7-9 and not having a quarterback and not being able to draft a top quarterback or having to trade the farm to go up and get one. I'd rather have them go, 2-14 and go get your guy.
Yeah, I mean, it could turn into it. I mean, on the surface, it looks like a loss, but you're right. I think it could manifest itself into a win if they absolutely – see, that's the thing. I don't think they're going to be like a 4-12 team. Like, I just don't think – I just can't see a Belichick team doing that. They'll probably – my thought is they'll be like an 8-8, so 7-9 to 9-7, somewhere around that kind of type of team, and have like, like 10, 11, 12, and you're not going to be able to get
it helps that their division is still not that strong. But I think about it like what happened with the Colts, right? The Colts had however many great years with Peyton Manning, over a decade, obviously, and then they had 2 bad years, and then they got Andrew Luck, and obviously it didn't work out. It didn't work out quite as well as they wanted, but that blueprint of like be really good for 15 years, suck for 2 years, and then enter another upslope into possible championships.
Yep. All right. Another loser. Who's up for one of them? Is it Pat?
Why don't you go first, Chris, in case we got the same one?
That's true. We're upsetting you.
Appreciate it. So I don't think you're gonna have mine. One that I thought of is actually Patrick Mahomes. Reason being, I know, like we talked about, the NFL top 100 list is stupid, but we'll start with that. Somehow they had him at number 4. So, I mean, mentally that's got to be annoying to him. With Lamar Jackson coming up now, being number 1 on that, I feel like that's going to be added pressure on him next season.
Also, do you think guys care about that?
I think they do. it's other players voting for him. Like, they can say it's stupid, but every NFL player thinks they're the best at what they do.
I think he's probably pissed that Russell Wilson's in front of him. Like Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson won the MVP. Like, okay, whatever. He's a cool guy. Like he's the people in the league love him. He's super humble. He just seems like a good dude. But like Russell Wilson, like that's just a little bit of a stretch.
I don't think Russell Wilson should be there, but I can theoretically see it. I mean, he's been around longer. Like more players have seen him play. Not that they haven't seen Mahomes play, but I can understand why if it's the players voting, they have a lot of respect for Russell Wilson too. But
yeah. And then along with that, the bigger thing, which we already touched on, Damon Williams being out with Edwards-Helaire coming in there. I mean, the knock against him coming out of college was his pass blocking. So that could be a downgrade there for Mahomes. Definitely make things more difficult for him if he's not able to get up to speed quickly on the pass blocking.
I see where you're going with it. I feel like we do have to mention there's like 430 million reasons that he is not a loser from this offseason.
Oh, yeah.
Just got to throw that out there.
No, definitely. But
makes sense. All right. Who else? Pat, do you have another one?
Yeah. All right. My second one is Deshaun Watson. There's really not a whole lot to say about it other than he lost arguably the best receiver in the league, or at least the top three, in DeAndre Hopkins. Not COVID related, but obviously it sucks losing that receiver, but also it kind of makes you question the organization that you're, playing for, because Bill O'Brien, as your head coach and GM, making that kind of decision, you have to be like, all right, are we on the same page? Like, where are we going with our team and our organization? So I think I'm sure he's not happy about that. And I know he can't probably say it as much as he wants, but yeah, that was a big loss for them.
But they got David Johnson.
Oh, the 28th best running back in the league.
Yeah, those aren't the same anymore. Hopkins, yeah. I think
not the best D Johnson on their team.
I know, right? I know this is I'm going back to it real quick. I'm going to give my loss, but real quick, a winner. I think Kyler Murray could be a winner. I mean, he's poised to break out. And I don't want to get into it too much, but adding Hopkins, like he's ready.
And a full season of Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, one of my losers, I just had another team that I felt is just kind of crumbling, and I mentioned it before. It's the Jets. C.J. Mosley opting out, Jamal Adams leaving. I think in the future they're going to be good with the draft picks they got. They got a nice haul for Jamal Adams, but Adam Gase is still there. I think he's the worst coach in the NFL. I just think that he sucks. Like, I don't know. He's never done anything like to prove to me that like this guy knows what he's doing or can successfully lead a team. But yeah, again, I think those are just two huge losses. I don't think they were particularly great anyway. On the defensive side of the ball, they're a sieve now. And I mean, another thing with this up and coming quarterbacks, like Sam Darnold, like he's going to need like a team around him to help him support. And I don't think they have it. It's a weak division, like we said, but they're not going anywhere. Jets are losers.
Yeah, I think they could be the worst team in football next year.
Yeah, they're terrible. Maybe them and the Redskins, but I think like the Sam Darnold
football team.
Oh, the R word. Sorry, yeah.
Come on, Pat.
The football team.
Washington football teams. That just rolls off the tongue. It just sounds so good.
I said it earlier. It's weird. I thought you were gonna say something about it. It was really weird feeling, but.
No, but what I was gonna say is like the Sam Darnold is kind of in like the same situation as Wentz, where they're not surrounding him with the weapons that could show his true ability. But I think in his case, like no one's expecting anything out of him, so that's his job. Like he's not like on the fence about losing that job, and that's I think where the only difference is.
But it's funny because they kind of tried. Like they went out and got Le'Veon. They made like some upgrades to the offensive line. But like they're not the right moves. Ththey're not the right like a running back. Like they have a small shelf life. I don't know if Le'Veon's not what he was, and I don't think he's ever going to be that again. So like they're names, but like they're not actual upgrades. It's on the surface. It looks cool, but it's not really helping.
Yeah.
All right. We each have one more or a run. Okay.
So my next one kind of rolls right off of there with the Washington football team's owner, Dan Snyder. He's just a loser in general, but he's an extra big loser this offseason. His team sucks. They don't have a name now. He kind of got exposed for what he is, and it was a really weird hill to die on. And after years and years of saying he's never going to change the name, and now he ends up with a terrible team with no name and probably the worst reputation in the NFL. So big loser, Dan Snyder.
Yeah, don't forget that cheerleader thing that came out too.
Yeah, he's
the culture there. Yeah, that's true. He just big loser.
I'd be kind of I don't know. I'd be a little. I mean, I guess I'm obviously a fan of a rival team, but I'd be kind of embarrassed to be,
I don't know if I'd be able to do it. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if and that's like a bigger debate. Like, where do you draw the line in sports between like, your morals and your political views and all that kind of stuff, and like, does that influence it at all? And like, does it have to be really, really extreme to come into play? Some people not as much, right. But he tips the scale for me. I don't know if I could root for like him to be successful.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, your last loser.
All three of mine are gone. Okay. Wentz, Patriots, and Mahomes.
Cool. All right, my last one was a bit interesting, but it's just kind of, from a standpoint of comparing it to everything else. I had the NFL as a loser, only because I'm just a little nervous for what's coming in the future. They're going to have the most time to prepare, and they're going to be able to see what the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB have done. They're going to be able to learn from their mistakes. But I think mine's a little presumptive that I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Players are very, very, very unhappy. As you can see, that there's a lot of opt-outs, more than any other sport. And they voiced that as well. They've said that they don't feel that it's safe, and a lot of players have come out on social media and said that they don't think that the NFL is doing a good job of keeping their health as best concern. I mean, I think there's a realistic possibility that if they don't get something together, I mean, a bubble, is it possible? Probably not. But I'm a little bit worried about what it's going to be like. Again, like, do you trust, when players have this free will, they're not in a bubble. You've seen it in MLB. Like, do you trust them all to not go out and not socialize and then not spread, anything that comes? So I just think the NFL, I'm preemptively saying that I think that they could be a loser if they choose to handle this very poorly.
Yeah, the other thing with the NFL is I don't think they can do a bubble because there's just too many players.
Yeah.
The rosters are way too big, and they're probably going to have to extend the rosters like the other sports have done, and then you're what, in like the 60s or 70s per team?
I was listening to
they literally huddle in between every play.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only sport where we're in between every play. Like, if one person on the offense gets it, you got to figure like the whole offense.
You're all getting it. You're breathing with each other. I was listening to the radio the other day, actually, and it was really, really interesting. And it's a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. But someone suggested an idea for what the NFL could do theoretically. It would cost millions of dollars. But they were saying that you go out to a very rural state, take Montana or something like that. You buy
take the whole state.
You buy a crap ton of land. You don't need any bleachers. You literally just set up like 100 football fields, and you build this little community with a crap ton of football fields. Have all the players live in a bubble in Montana. You build them food. You build them housing. I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money, and you don't have time. But I thought it was a really cool idea. I was like, how cool would that be if they set up a thing in some state in the middle of nowhere and just played football? Like, it was like this little thing. I feel like you could celebrate it every year. It'd be like a cool place for people to visit. I don't know. I thought it was a cool idea.
Yeah, plus incentive for players.
It's not realistic. It's not realistic, but it's cool.
Yeah,
I like South Dakota is now just the NFL. That's our 50th state, the NFL.
Exactly. Yeah. They should, or like Fight Island, buy an island and make it, whatever.
Fight Island is awesome.